All right, what up, everybody? Welcome back to the Yama channel. My name is Thinker St. James. This is last week's fight, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, my good friend, the Ohio player, and a man who is reportedly romantically linked to Virna Jandiroba, Chase Parton. How you doing?
You know it. We're living it up. You know, me and my girl got a dub on Saturday. So
yeah, that's a dub indeed. Absolutely, bro. All right, yeah. So this event was, I was calling it the little card that could, man. Everybody was, myself included, was memeing on it a little bit. You know, it was kind of looking like it wasn't going to be the greatest of all time. But I would say that this event kind of pulled through in a way that was pretty satisfying. What'd you think?
It took a minute. It had me drinking real early, but once it started going, you're right. It was definitely a sight to behold. It started out with the perfect finish with the perfect candidate. So
absolutely, yeah, and we'll get into all of them. So yeah, as you might know if you've watched the stream before, we are going to be breaking down all of these fights individually. Feel free to say what's up in the chat. Anything that is off topic from the fights that we're talking about, if you got questions or comments or any of that kind of stuff, save them or keep them in the chat or whatever. We'll go through and answer any kind of stuff after we break down the card. We'll be talking about some of next week's fights as well. Got a big event coming up, and any other stuff that's big in the world of MMA, and there's been some interesting stuff going down. So that's how the format works, and let's get into it, man. First fight on the card was Muhammad Usman versus Thomas Peterson. What'd you think of this fight?
Mo Usman just ain't it. I mean, you can only back a guy so much. You can only give so much hope, and it's just never going to be there. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of saying it before this fight, and very much now after this fight. I honestly think that Mo needs to get cut. I don't see much in him that is worthwhile as far as entertainment value. I don't think he's been improving, and really, obviously, he's the brother of a very successful mixed martial artist. I don't think that he has the build in him as his brother does. He looked very slow in this fight. He looked very apprehensive in this fight. That was the bigger deal to me. It's like you can get a slow start, you can kind of build up over the course of a fight, but he just looked like he was fighting very cautiously all the way into the third round. I mean, it's like there's a momentum that you can build up to the third round if if you're trying to feel the guy out, see what his power's like, you see what he's going to be throwing at you, all that. It was beyond that. It was just a very plodding, very heavy, and very apprehensive fight. That's the only way to put it. Peterson looked nice on the other hand. Everybody's talking about Mo Usman. I think that the real story is Thomas Peterson putting it together in a way that was pretty satisfying.
Yeah, I give him credit for actually getting the win. I wasn't expecting it because I was hoping Mo Usman would actually do something. And the point I wanted to make last on Mo is like he's a fighter that relies on his striking and his striking only, but he doesn't have knockout power. Like, I mean, I was trying to back him up, like you got to do something about it and show people you don't. But like, dog, he ain't ever gonna get it. And he's not shooting for takedowns. He's not getting control time. He's not doing anything in the clinch. He's not kicking. He's not doing anything other than throwing some bum ass combinations. Not even.
Big for
So
nothing, for real. It's true. And what he's throwing is always singles. The man does not throw a combo to save his life. I mean,
yeah,
like maybe one or two at most in this fight. I mean, it's just always very methodical and cautious single strikes that don't have the power to back that up. So yeah, it's Vince King saying it. I mean, it's yeah. I think that it wasn't the worst performance in the world as far as like no, no. I mean, really, there's really not much to compliment about it. I mean, it's yeah, he stayed in it. He didn't get himself knocked out. I guess you can give him that. But yeah, it's just it's not there for him. And the other thing too to keep in mind. I mean, the dude has been knocked out before, so it's not like he's necessarily going to be the most durable guy against a dude who's not Thomas Peterson.
yeah.
I don't think that it's it for Usman. Maybe there's a possibility he goes and picks up some skills elsewhere and comes back, but it's loss after loss, and it made me feel kind of foolish for supporting him too. I have to say. I mean, we all saw the last fight, thought he kind of got robbed. Fight before that and didn't go his way either. I'm pretty sure. So I mean, he's spotty at best, and at worst, it's a performance like that did not deliver in the slightest. On the other hand, though, again, Peterson was putting it together pretty nicely. He was moving decently for a bigger guy. Would have been nice to see him, finish the fight off if he was going to get the win, but he mixed it up decently. He did put together combos, and I thought it was awesome that he called out Chael Sonnen after the fight. So points all around.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I was gonna say that it was either a wicked miscalculation on this being the opener, or they 100% knew throw the most boring fights, the first four boring ones right at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There were a couple to start it off. But yeah, so I mean, really, not too much else to say about that. Nice win for Peterson.
Yeah,
Moving
was putting
on.
me to sleep, just like almost this one. I kind of don't remember much of this one. Not gonna lie, you might have to
Yeah,
refresh me.
yeah. I did my homework on this one. I kind of went back and rewatched a couple of them. But yeah, this one is absolutely not one to say much about. I literally have that in the notes. Not a needle mover for Carolina, really, and not the best performance for Pudilova either. Carolina had some decent kicks, and a few nice shots up top. I mean, yeah, it wasn't a barn burner performance on her part. I mean, she just doesn't have much power, Carolina.
Hmm.
But Pudilova seemed like she had less. So
Yeah,
that's kind of a recipe for not much action. It wasn't like they were fighting scared though. They were engaging a good amount. They ended up clinching a whole lot of times and throwing a lot of ineffective knees in the clinch. That's something that I noticed as well. It's
right.
like both of them wanted to do it, but it like wasn't really connecting for either of them. So they kind of just were smacking the air with their knees because they were like keeping a wide clinch when they were doing it. So yeah, I mean, really not much else to say about it. I mean, the only other note that I had was that Carolina had some decent takedown defense up until the third round.
Hmm.
But she deserve to win? Absolutely. Again, not necessarily a fight that does much by way of inspiring higher competition as we talk about.
Yeah, this one, and I guess it applies to all of them in this, but there weren't just split decisions. Like people weren't these weren't close competitions really. This one was probably the closest of them, I guess, but it it just wasn't really that interesting to watch altogether because one person was just winning the entire time. There wasn't barely a chance for the underdog to show up, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Although a couple of good underdog wins on this card later on, so thankfully
Yeah.
that did happen. But Yeah, not in this one. And on the watch along, Vitsking was remarking that Pudilova looks like a Sunday school teacher, and she got taken a class on this
Yeah.
one. So, um, yeah, so that's about it with that one, though. I guess we'll just see what ends up happening with Carolina down the line, but she's gonna have to put on some more impressive performances to get herself on the radar in a bigger way.
Yeah.
All right, next up was a very nice wrestling display for Trey Ogden versus Loic Radzhabov. Radzhabov has nothing on the ground, brother.
Yeah, so what I was gonna say, first off, yeah, he has nothing. He was controlled for 9 minutes and 47 seconds. And this is where the watch along on my end was getting irritated, like, because Trey Ogden should have been able to finish it. I do know that he had 2 sub attempts. I was thinking he was gonna finish by sub, but the fact that he couldn't and it went to unanimous decision, gosh, we were already tired after the 2 unanimous decision, a third one. Yeah, it was getting rough.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it would have been nice if he had been able to get the finish. Radzhabov is a pretty powerful guy. Trey was remarking on it after the fight, and you could see it a little bit in that. I believe it was the second round where Radzhabov came out with a couple of nice strikes. Because reminds me a little bit of the next fight that we'll talk about, Maverick versus Barbosa. I think after that first round. Loic realized that he was down, wanted to keep it on the feet, started striking. You can tell that he's got some good power in his hands, but Trey was just able to get him down. He really does not have anything on the ground at all, so it would have been nicer for Ogden to get that finish for that reason. But it was a controlling performance for Trey. It definitely, he deserved to win, obviously, with all the control that he had. He actually also had some really nice shoulder strikes on the ground as well. I always want to remark on that.
I want to make a point that we were questioning some of those may have been a little headbutt area. He was kind of catching him, but I
Oh,
won't.
fair. Okay.
Um,
I'd have to rewatch to
yeah,
see where that head
that's
was
what
landed.
was thrown out on our end. But I also agree the shoulder strikes, especially grounded, it's kind of hard not to headbutt. I mean, you are throwing your head into it. Um, but yeah, is this a needle mover? I mean, Loic really just didn't impress, kind of deal.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, 4 of 4 takedowns for Ogden. It's, I mean, it
4 or
was.
5 is what ESPN has, but
Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah, yeah. Four or
Oh no,
five.
yeah, oh
My
yeah, yeah,
bad.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you're good. Four, well, four, anyways. Yes.
Yeah, 4 takedowns. 5 attempts. I mean, it was really very much one-sided when it came to anything ground related, and Ogden was able to get it to the ground all 3 rounds. So, really, just figured that part out and did what he did. Again, it would have been nice if he had been able to finish. If you're going to be that wrestle heavy, get the finish. I mean, it's like you really gotta. Again, put a stamp on it on any of these early fights that we're talking about here. If you're talking about trying to raise your stock with these fights, like you gotta make it memorable and worthwhile. And I mean, again, no one gets remembered for massive amounts of control time with nothing on top of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. We always talk about coming out, making people remember the performance, remember who you are. Like, yeah, this one is just nobody's coming out of this one and says, "Man, Trey Ogden he really did something there." So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So that's about that. As we continue our rapid ascent up this card. But this is where I think that it did start to turn around a little bit. I liked this fight. This is Miranda Maverick versus Diani Barbosa. I thought that this was a really good look for Maverick all in all, but it also was a decent look for Barbosa. Actually, she was the largest underdog on the card. Maverick was the biggest favorite. Barbosa made this competitive fight, so I was definitely happy for her. In that regard, she got some big shoulders, man. She got some a big heft in her upper body. I would suspect that the power is probably there when she's able to get her game plan off a little bit easier. But Maverick is just so good with the control. She's really sharp with control. She's also very powerful. Whenever Barbosa was able to put a couple of strikes together, Maverick just was on top of it. She stuck with it and was able to shift the tide, get the control back, and just anytime that she was in that controlling dominant position, she utilized it to full effect. So good performance for her, but not the worst for Barbosa.
What I want to say is that back when Tracy fought Rose, I made the comparison that Miranda Maverick, when they were going to fight, I feel like they're very similar. And I see this fight, and I do still think that Miranda Maverick is a better striker, as I believe you said.
Mhm.
And I think it's because she puts in the fucking work. And you could tell right when the fight started, she was cut up. She looked ripped. She
Yeah.
was ready to fucking win. And, Tracy, I get it was short notice, but like you're always you're a fight once a year type of person. Miranda looks like she's ready to go, and I think that still would have been a good matchup to have. But in my opinion, they fight the same, and if styles make matchups, then maybe that wouldn't have been as great. But she
Yeah.
was ready.
Yeah, for sure. Barbosa was mixing it up with her striking too, though. I think that the striking was where Barbosa was doing her better work, but just Miranda was wise. She was wise to it. Like she like that. She really was showing that because Barbosa is a little less experienced. She's showing her experience and her fight IQ in there, and looked really good when she was under a little bit of fire. So shout out to her for that. She is one of those fighters that looks like she's improving fight over fight, which you always want to see. And this was just a really decent display of her all around ability because she did strike decently, but it was a lot of control. And you can say that it wasn't necessarily the most entertaining because she was just keeping a lot of pressure on and not necessarily getting to the next the next step in working towards a finish. But that's really more of a credit to Barbosa as well. Like she was also hanging in there. She was trying really hard to make sure she did not get finished. So just a nice kind of meeting at the middle of the skills. Just Miranda has more. So yeah, I was not dissatisfied with this fight. I thought it was a decent look for both of them. And Maverick now, racking up a couple of decent wins. I'd say that she's probably going to be top 15. I was surprised she wasn't ranked already.
Yeah, not gonna lie too, but that's how prospects are. She's new in the game. I kind of forget how new people are because I'm kind of new too. So she's maybe coming around
She's
the time that
newer,
I've been.
yeah.
Yeah. So this is a good look for her. I mean, whatever the case may be, ranked or no, like she's got some good matchups that are ahead of her. And the point I wanted to make too is, unlike Tracy, not to keep talking about her, but she sets up her wrestling with the striking. Like she is really good with the combinations on the feet and keeping them at distance. And then when she's ready to shoot, she's able to control them because she gets the single or the double, whatever you want to say. And then she's able to just rack up control time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the power that she has also shows. She's got some really big legs. She's really powerful like in the clinch against the fence. She can control very nicely there. I mean, out at range, in the middle of open water, she's able to control decently, and that's a testament to to the power that she has. So yeah, good look for her. And also want to note, shout out to Miranda Maverick for being a bit of an entrepreneur with her Prowler pickles and high stakes honey. She is a pickler and honey maker. I guess she grew up on farms and stuff. She was saying so. She, as opposed to all of these female fighters that jump directly over to OnlyFans, Miranda Maverick going out there and making an honest living. I can appreciate that. So me and Vitz King were saying that we're gonna go pick up some of her pickles at some point, do a little taste test on the channel at some point down the road. So shout out to her for that.
Yeah, that'd be dope, man. Shout out her, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and a good win on top of it. So
Yep.
very nice. Now, all right, moving on to the first finish of the card, and thank God it was our boy Cody Gibson getting the job done against Brian Kelleher. This was a vintage Cody Gibson performance right here, if you've ever seen one, man. I mean, he was looking sharp, he was looking fast, he was keeping so much pressure. He pressured that entire round. It was white on rice, is what I said on the watch along. Stand by that, right now. I mean, he was all over Kelleher from the opening, of the fight up until the finish. This was a really, really solid performance for Cody.
Yeah, I knew it was coming. I honestly was hoping for the first round knockout because Brian was just coming off a fucking knockout, and Cody did have him with a slick elbow, and it did drop Brian to the ground. But
It's
man,
true.
we talk about Cody's, grappling, and it's kind of underrated because he did sink that arm triangle in quick, and as soon as you saw he get right underneath the back of the head, it was over. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really nice. The one time that he got caught in the guillotine when Brian jumped it, he stayed focused, got free, went right back to work, and got the sub. It was really really perfect. I mean, and you're right about the elbow too. I forgot about that as well. He had him wobbled for a second there. Went right back in for the pressure. Didn't keep up with the trying to finish it that way necessarily. Also, Brian I think was scrambling at that point to try to get himself back back on solid ground. But it was a really nice example of how Cody, the fight IQ definitely shows. He is very keyed in to what he's witnessing from his opponent. He's one of those dudes that can flow with it. Reminded me a good amount of one of his fights when he was on the Ultimate Fighter recently, where he just kept he's so nice with maintaining the pressure. Like he's a pressure fighter for real, for real. And he was saying that he thought the smaller cage, kind of affected him negatively in his performance. I was like, bro, I don't. I mean, because I guess he said he wanted to be a pressure fighter, but also keep his distance striking as well going. But I mean, bro, play to your strengths, man, because it was from the opening to the end, it just really a complete control from Cody Gibson. It was a like I said, vintage performance.
Yeah, no, he was ready to go from the jump. Like I said with whoever I said about Maverick, right from the gate when the camera showed on her, you knew finish was coming. Don't know how, but that's what it was.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, obviously, after the Ultimate Fighter, Cody has had a little bit of a rocky road. He hasn't been able to rack up the wins like he's been wanting to. This is a nice one to show that he's definitely still somebody who needs to be in the organization. And shout out to him as well for changing up the fight camp. He's doing his camps at the PI now. Obviously, it looked like it really affected him in a very positive way. He's got Aljo, and he's doing training with Patchy Mix. I mean, that's a really high level pair of guys to be working with. So, it's rubbing off, and it's showing that that Cody is definitely a dude who can get his wins and get them in impressive fashion. So, shout out to him, man. Can't say enough good things.
Facts,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, well, fight was a little bit short, so we had a little bit of a break, but right back to another short fight. This is Jiang Li versus Hyder Emil. How about Hyder Emil coming through like a barking underdog?
Yeah, I knew this one was coming. First round finish as well. Hyder Emil, surprisingly, I thought he was gonna wrestle, but he knew what he had to do once he took a few shots. He said, "I'm not gonna go down to this," and the numbers speak to it. 42 strikes to 4 out of that whole flurry. Like, Lee was swinging, but Emil was just laser, just rockets, just right at this dude. I can't even explain it because I'll make this point. Stream cut out. I got it in the replay, but it's okay. And Hyder is a dog. I've been saying it. I knew when he was like, I'm pretty sure he might have been the underdog here,
He
which
was the underdog, yes.
ridiculous. Like the week that I don't bet. Anyway, uh
Yeah,
it
that
was
sucks.
nice.
Yeah, no, this card actually came through in a big way for me. It made out pretty well on this one, and Hyder being among the picks, and what a good underdog he turned out to be. That 42 strikes, total strikes. I would say that a good 35 of them were in that flurry that finished the fight. I mean, a punching machine. They call him Marab the Machine. This guy is the Hurricane, living up to that name.
Yeah.
I think Brendan Fitzgerald said he was a Category 5 out there. I was like, that is accurate, man. I mean, this dude was when he got going. I like it was one of those deals where it was like you start seeing it. When you're watching it in real time, you're like, okay, okay.
Yeah.
It ramps up because he's ramping up, and man, I was insanely impressed. On the flip side of that, though, I would say that this fight showed a little bit of a lack of fight IQ for Lee, because when he started taking some of those early ones. Now, granted, when you're 5, 6, 10 into him. I mean, we're talking 15 into him at that point because there were so many of them. But when he started taking some of those early ones, as far as like, the first 5, maybe, let's say, he was still with it enough to figure it out that, you need to get your hands up, fucking move your head, fucking, a level change, do something. You need to get out of there. Was not able to do any of that. I think he got a little stun locked in the sequence, and Hyder just kept in the sequence. It was, he didn't stop when the flurry started, because it was, the fight ending sequence was kind of long in that regard. I mean, it was 20 plus strikes in the total sequence. In those first 3 or 4, bro, Lee, you gotta know that that you need to change up your plan here, because if a person like Hyder, who's going to do that, has that open space to do it, you don't do anything to counteract that. That's what happens. And yeah, I would say that this was not necessarily a great look for Jiang Lee, who is a road to the UFC winner.
I want to make a point too. Hyder Emil, that flurry that he was throwing was not the most technical performance that you will ever see.
Fair.
But it does show that he's willing to just go in there and swing, hooks, overhands, and it's not kind of like, it's wild, sure, but it's also effective. And he did it at a rate that, like, he didn't stop. Like, he didn't give Lee the moment to be like, okay, let me check this dude for throwing 14 left, right, left, right, left. Like, he was just bombing him start to finish. I'm surprised that 1:05 is what it was clocked at. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, fair. I mean, the you hear me use the phrase blank canvas often here, and this was a great example of what you can do when you have that. I mean, Lee was, early on. I mean, he was in it a little bit. He threw what they're saying 4 of 10 totals. I mean, okay, they're counting all 4 of those as significant. Okay. But when you're not receiving the offense back, and you're, especially first round, you're super fresh, you got all your power, all your adrenaline's going from getting the fight started. This was a great example of what can be done when you have an opening like what Hyder saw. It's like you said, it wasn't necessarily the most technical striking. I mean, we're not talking about super accurate on all 35 of them.
Yeah.
But when you're not receiving anything back, that's your open range. That's what we say about having a lot of real estate to work with. That's exactly what Hyder had here. Hyder took advantage of it in a great way.
And I will argue on Lee's side, because shout out to Koreans, this may have been a little early in my opinion, but I want to argue that it was because of what it looked like, because Hyder was it was unanswered strikes. That's what it was. He may not have been going out or like on the ground, but he wasn't returning fire. And Hyder Emil may not have been slugging him in the face every time, but unanswered strikes are unanswered strikes. He was throwing them and nothing was coming back. So fair.
Right. And that's exactly it. And that's why it's like, if you're not going to throw back, then you need to figure out what you are going to do. And it has to be that quick. Talk about levels to this game. You're facing competition in the UFC that you have not faced on the road to the UFC. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. These guys that are in the UFC is a completely different breed, even though Hyder's a newer guy himself. It's not like he's a seasoned vet necessarily, but still, when you're in a situation like that, you have to recognize it as quickly as those punches are coming. You either start throwing back or figure out what the next move is, because standing there, hands low, which is another thing that started the whole thing. Lee was keeping his hands a little bit low. I mean, he got caught with those early ones and, didn't end up putting his hands up. Hyder was like, oh, okay, open window over here. Let me just walk right through that. And that's exactly what he did.
I think the last point I want to make is I just double checked at the weight class. This was kind of like, this felt like a flyweight kind of deal. Like, Hyder Emil doesn't feel like a featherweight. Like, he goes out there, at least from that performance, like he was just throwing them, man, at a pace that you don't see with people that, when you get up the weight classes. So
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it would have been nice to see how he would have looked a little bit later on in the fight had he started wearing down a little bit and had to withstand some more pressure from Lee. But did not come, got the win early, and yeah, shout out to him indeed. I mean, it was a really nice performance. Definitely one that you talk about putting a stamp on it and getting people to remember your name. That'll absolutely do it. A flurry like that will not soon be forgotten.
Yeah.
Good shit. That was another very nice one here. Starting off some really nice fights. This one included Do-Hoi Choi versus Bill Algeo. I've talked about it on the last stream that Do-Hoi Choi was in one of my all-time favorite fights against Cub Swanson. That's a Hall of Fame fight right there. Highly recommend to watch that if you have not seen it. He certainly does look like he has slowed down a little bit. I mean, he's still a young guy. He's not necessarily super far down to the point where, he's like the age is what's causing the slowdown, but it did look like he was being a little bit more methodical in this fight. I think that this is all speculation, but he might have known that Bill Algeo is kind of an unconventional guy and might have been taking it a little bit cautiously just to see what Algeo was going to be throwing. Whatever the case may be, if that's true or not, he figured it out pretty well and was getting the better of Algeo throughout a lot of this, ultimately getting the finish.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure if we even saw like what happened with Bill, because I'm pretty sure he like hurt his head, or hurt his, not his head, but his face,
Yeah, I was
like
going to talk about that
eye
too.
orbital bone area. So I mean, Choi obviously getting old, slowing down. Hey, he's got the power. Apparently, he's breaking faces. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so yeah, to that point, it was very weird how that all finished off.
Maybe it was an eye poke type of thing, like a knuckle eye poke, maybe. Hmm.
It could have been. I mean, yeah. So Algeo sort of like the strike landed was a punch that So just
Yeah,
throwing that out there. It was not an eye poke. It was a completely clean legal hit. But so yeah, he kind of turned his head and put his finger up like, oh, something was wrong, and then without the ref stepping in, rightly so, thankfully, because that would have
yeah.
been an unfortunate situation had he stepped in. Choi went in and finished it off and got the job done. Up until then, looking pretty decent. In that first round, there was some decent back and forth going on. The one thing I was not a fan of with Choi was him jumping guillotine. I'm not a fan of jumping guillotine in general, to be perfectly honest, unless you are 10,000% sure that you have it locked in. But so that was a situation where that didn't work out for him. However, aside from that, he did show that he has some pretty decent wrestling, which I don't think that he necessarily had shown as much of in the past.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to your point on the submissions, I looked at it and I said, "Damn, 3 sub attempts." Like, I don't really remember 3 times that he was in like a deep, submission threat. But yeah, he was jumping guillotine, and surprisingly, he didn't jump guillotine the most on this card. We got a fight coming up where a dude was just doing it all over the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, wrestling looked good. Got 2 of 3 take. I mean, they both traded takedowns. Bill Algeo actually had a little more control time, but hey, Troy was able to get it done. Second round, you get back to the feet. You gotta get him down again, and obviously he couldn't.
Yeah, and I mean, Choi showing that the power is absolutely still there. I was, I don't want to rag on it too much because it wasn't necessarily like a terrible performance from Bill Algeo, but I was a little bit underwhelmed. I thought that with Algeo, he's kind of a tricky character in the cage because he always looks tired. He's another one of those kind of guys that he's got the Alexandre Pantoja going on where
Yeah,
he just sort of looks tired no matter what. But that's not necessarily where he's at physically when he's in the fight, and he does mix it up pretty decently. He was doing a little bit of that, but it just wasn't like getting out of the gate quick enough. And Choi, even with slowing down a little bit, was showing that he was keying into the things that Algeo was doing, following along really nicely, and getting the better of him. So I think that Algeo needed to get a little bit. He needed to be a little bit quicker out of the gate, and he didn't necessarily achieve that. Choi ended up pulling away with it in a really nice way.
yeah. This is the exact performance I needed to believe in the legend of Choi here. You guys talk him up, and that legendary performance that he had. So this was really nice for me to see a good finish. Me fresh in the brain, good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and him coming off of that skid that he was on after the Cub Swanson fight, uh, it's really nice to see him course correct. Had Korean Zombie in his corner. That was nice to see as well. Training with an absolute legend there. Yeah, hopefully this can be the turnaround for Choi. Shout out to the homie Badger. Badger is keen on seeing Dohoi Choi versus Cub Swanson too. What do you think about that?
Hey, I'm not opposed to anything these days. Badger do be getting some right. I'll be listening when he talks about these matchmaking because sometimes they pop up and we're not too far off.
Yeah, I mean, it would now be kind of an interesting meeting between the two of them, where they are currently. Cub starting to slip a little bit. He is looking like he's on the tail end. If he does want one more, it would be kind of a fun matchup to see them go back at it after the amazing performance that they both put on in the first one. So interesting times if that ends up being the case. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, yep, no doubt.
All right, so this fight was kind of interesting to say the least. Cody Durden versus Bruno Silva. What'd you think?
Well, I had Cody Durden by third round knockout on verdict. This is actually the point I'll make that my verdict scores were not even close to being decent on this week.
Mm,
I was so bad. And Cody, you were doing good. Everybody was, Henry in the chat was sitting there saying, Bruno Silva knockout. I got this. Got this, no doubt. And then the first two rounds go by, halfway through the second round, and it ain't looking too hot for Bruno. Cody's leading the charge there. And then, man, did that uppercut send him into the stratosphere. Like, oh,
gone, dude.
brother.
Gone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one thing I'm actually curious, since we talked about Bellagio, I wonder if Cody actually suffered any dental damage because he was getting punched in the face a lot after his mouth guard flew out. So,
Yeah, it's a good point. The mouth guard did get go flying, which was easy to see considering that it was that bright green, neon green coloring that he had on there, which was kind of funny because he did the whole smile at the camera thing to start the fight off. So it's like this is what my this is the color of my mouthpiece. This
yep,
is what it looks like. You'll see it later on flying
yep.
across the cage. You're not wrong. I mean, he did take a couple. Yeah, it was a competitive first round, and Cody was outworking Silva for up until that uppercut. It was really kind of a crazy change of pace. I remember saying on the watch along, I'm like, oh man, it would be really nice if Cody could get this finish. Considering how hard he's working for it. He had that submission attempt for a
Yeah,
second there that was looked like it was pretty good for a minute. Silva able
gave
to
up
to
on it.
yeah. Silva able to squirm his way enough to where Cody kind of let go. But yeah, I mean, talk about how MMA can change on a dime, man. I mean, all of a sudden, one punch changes everything, and yeah, Silva. Just that uppercut, like you said, sent him out into outer space. Cody was done for at that point. Another interesting note from this fight is that apparently these guys trained together. They had trained together in the past. So, that's always a little bit of an odd situation. I think that Silva was the one that was a little upset that Durden took the fight, not unlike Pavlovich and Jesus Christ, Volkov. Um, there was a little bit of bad blood because the fight got taken at all. So interesting note, but I bring that up more to say these guys do know each other and know what each of them are capable of. I guess Cody didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, that was the point I was going to make, that they were teammates, and who knows how much they actually trained together and how extensively they were as training partners. But in the fight, Cody seemed to be pulling away, and he had the attitude and the charisma of like, I figured it out, like I know your game and I'm going to win now kind of deal. But the past 2 weeks, these flyweights and these uppercuts, man, they're just taking me out. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, a very nice statement from Silva to be able to get a knockout at flyweight. I mean, that's everybody always gets on the flyweights. The smaller guys, they're not getting knockouts. There's one for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of hard to say nice performance for Silva because I mean he really was getting worked for a round and a half, but sometimes one uppercut is all it takes.
Yeah, exactly. When you got a nuke in your hand, hey, whatever. You can do
Yeah.
what you want.
absolutely. So hopefully he can kind of shore up some of the the things he needs to work on, because there's going to be guys that are not going to let that happen. But that being said, for this one, good on him.
This next one.
Yeah, all right. So moving on, Kurt Hollabaugh versus Kanan Krzyzewski, I believe is how his name is pronounced. Yeah, this is another one where on the roller coaster, this was a little bit of a dip, but not the worst performance for Kurt. Got the win. I mean, Krzyzewski is a fighting nerd now.
That was my point, is you
Mm,
can clearly see that he's not on their level. And one, did he slow down and start throwing the same things that were getting very predictable and getting very telegraphed? He also jumped guillotine like 7 times, slipped
yeah.
right off like 4 of them, and he just wasn't even close. And then, like, he kept getting backed up to the cage and wasn't doing anything. And I thought jumping down a class would help him, and he did look good. He had good size, and like it looked like he was, in the gym, but he's just too slow, I guess. I think that's maybe the issue.
Well, yeah, and I wanted to bring that up as well. That for the size, I mean, because they're both kind of big lightweights, but both of them looked exhausted, like throughout this entire fight. Basically, I mean, Kurt is unfortunately wearing his age. I have to say. I mean, I like another tough guy, another dude coming off the Ultimate Fighter, been in and out of the promotion, been fighting since fucking Strikeforce. I mean, this dude has been around for quite a while. All props to him for continuing on, but he's starting to wear it a little bit, and at least he has a worthwhile excuse for that. Krzyzewski, on the other hand, a little bit fresher, you'd think, but like I said, looking almost exhausted throughout, like I would say like 90% of this fight. I mean, like you could maybe say like the first half of the first round they were looking all right, but like by the 3/4 of the way through the first round, it was already looking like they were kind of getting a little heavy on the feet. So yeah, Krzyzewski does not inspire much confidence, I would say, after that. Kurt did, however, kind of show a little bit of a fight IQ slip up there. He had in the second round, he had Krzyzewski hurt on the cage. He had him rocked pretty decently, and then just inexplicably decides to go for a takedown, which did not work out. I mean, that might have the way that it looked to me, it might have just been instinct. You know what I mean? Like I think that Kurt is kind of a wrestle heavy guy, so I think that sort of it's ingrained in him that it's like, okay, boom boom takedown, boom boom takedown kind of thing. But I mean, when you have him hurt against the cage like that, and being as much of a veteran as Hollabaugh is, it's a little unfortunate that he didn't recognize that immediately and just keep going in with the strikes, because Krzyzewski was looking a little wobbly for sure. I think he might have been able to get it done, but I guess that'll happen. Still got the win in the end, so good for him.
Yeah, 100%. And this one, it kind of killed the vibe, that we were rolling with. But all in all, once it was over, we got to another good one. So
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, one thing to note is that Kurt absolutely needed to win, considering that his whole goddamn family was in the crowd. Did you hear how fucking loud his son was screaming?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Yep.
His son was echoing off of the walls of the Apex. And, Kurt is a dude who took the be fruitful and multiply dealie a little bit too seriously. I mean, he's got a quite a large clan of children there with his lovely wife, all of whom were in the crowd. So nice that he was able to do it in front of the family. I'm always, a little bit weary of fighters bringing their families to the fights when they have young children. Considering what could happen, but in this case, it worked out for him. So shout out to Kurt. He's a good guy. I mean, like I said, I watched his entire season of The Ultimate Fighter and reviewed it on the channel. You can go back and watch those episodes. Good dude, salt of the earth kind of guy. I love to see him win. How much longer can he continue on? I'm hoping that for his sake, he's getting some dudes that are on this level continuously. Let him just fill out cards. Kurt's not making any kind of runs. That's probably pretty much a given. Just let him kind of coast a little bit, because I think higher level competition is going to be a problem, especially if they have better cardio.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, moving on to we're kind of my bad. We're kind of blowing through this card, but it's kind of one of those kind of cards that it kind of lends itself to it. This fight being among them, that was a quick one. This is Steve Garcia versus Sungwoo Choi. Man, Steve Garcia showing some nice accuracy with that power that he's got in those hands.
Yeah, I was gonna first point out that when I saw this fight start, I looked at Choi and I said, "Holy shit, this dude was made in a laboratory or something. This dude
Yeah,
is built crazy."
true.
And unfortunately, this is the sport where people like that get humbled. And I'm not saying he was in need of it, but Steve Garcia doesn't look like the dude who can do it, and he really does have some power in the hands. I think that's a couple of knockouts for him now.
That is his fourth knockout in a row. He is on the longest knockout streak in the UFC currently.
Holy shit. And he actually
Yeah.
has 13 knockouts in total of his career. So yeah, this dude, hey, shout out the MMA based goddess. She said, "I believe Steve Garcia will get a knockout. Am I cooked?" And she was not cooked, y'all. She did indeed cook. She was on next level there. So
Fair enough. Yeah. Our friend Carissa came over to watch some of these fights with us, and I had asked her, who do you think is going to win this one before the fight started? And she said that she thought that Steve Garcia looked like he had like a 1.45 GPA, was I believe the way that she described him. Well, fuck that shit, because his fight IQ is much higher. As I said,
yeah.
His accuracy was what I was most impressed with, honestly. I like, as you said, Choi is an imposing figure, a bigger guy too, as well. You see him, up against each other. He had a good amount of size on him in all dimensions. But Garcia was weathering early, a little bit of early pressure from him. Choi's got some really heavy leg kicks that looked like it might have been a problem, or could have been a problem going forward had it not played out as it had. Because Garcia actually dropped to a knee from one of them. So I mean, obviously those leg kicks are a problem. I believe that I heard Senko say that he in his last fight utilized those very effectively, and you can tell that he swings those legs with some pretty heavy intention. So that might have been something that could have played a bigger factor. But Garcia, when he was able to land those shots at range, it was interesting too, because I mean he was throwing from a pretty decent distance. I mean he looked like he was reaching a little bit for him, a little bit. Like if you go back and watch it, he was staying a little bit farther out when he was getting the punches set up, but when he threw them from that range, the accuracy was really on point, and it only took 3, man. I mean, he got the one that got him a little bit stunned. Second one furthered the process. Third one put him out.
Yeah, and I want to say this is a type of fight that the Apex is for, or at least the co-main event of an Apex. Like this is, you got people that you don't know the name of, and they show up and they have like a good little streak, and then they show out once again why you're supposed to be watching. And a good spot on the card for them. I'm really happy that this was like kind of towards the end, because man, it really brightened my mood to see that knockout happen.
Absolutely. And yeah, talk about names that you need to remember. I mean, as I said, four knockouts in a row, longest streak currently in the organization. I mean, Steve Garcia is a problem. The mean machine is indeed a mean machine.
Yeah, no doubt. And featherweight, like, gosh, like,
Yeah.
You see people that are way outside the rankings that you envision. Like, if this dude went up against Volkanovski,
Being
like,
a little reckless, but all right.
but like, no, but like, you do your imaginary matchups, like things that will never happen. But like, if that happened, like that would be bad. Like, he could probably beat the fucking champion right now, or like, the ex-champion or whatever. If
At least based on current state Volk, yeah, that is true. Yeah, no, I mean, with performances like this, as we've talked about earlier, we talk about often, these are the kinds of performances that raise your stock. These are the kinds of performances that that show that you need to be, fighting at a higher level. There are levels to this game. Steve Garcia has shown that he deserves to be at a higher one. So, will there be guys farther up the chain that are going to be able to take some of those shots? It is possible. I mean, I mean, they were very powerful shots. There are some better chins. We're talking again featherweight, very competitive division. Yeah, there are probably gonna be some stronger chins out there. But fucking put him in front of him and let him get tested. I mean, that's exactly how you fucking find out, man. I mean, this,
Yeah.
like Garcia, these types of streaks that he's going on. I mean, these are the performances that take you from being a guy that people don't, necessarily know the name to being a known name. So
100%.
absolutely, yeah, fantastic for Steve Garcia. Glad to see it. All right, and yeah, I mean, we kind of breezed through it, but again, the card lend itself to it because it was, kind of a couple of quick ones. This being another one among them, Lemos versus Virna Jandiroba. I mean, second round, but still, quicker. It was a 5-round fight, so.
I want to actually ask you a question. Is
Sure.
this the fastest UFC card that ever happened? Because my stream clocked in at just a little over 5 hours. And when you remove the actual co-main event and it's already like a small card, plus there was like 5, 6 finishes or whatever in not even like the third round or whatever. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's a good question. I remember on one of the Yama episodes talking about one of the pay-per-views. The number is escaping me off the top of my head. I believe I think it might have been one of the was it the one where Alex won the belt? It's yeah, I'm the details are oh no, it was the one where it was Pavlovich Aspinall, that event.
Mhm.
That the amount of total fight time was like super short on that one. So, but I mean, this one might be in the running. But there were a couple of those fights that went to decision probably put it over. But it was certainly up there as far as these quick finishes go. It's a couple of decent first rounders in there.
Yeah, and quick finishes, back to what you were saying originally. Jandiroba is a beast. Jandiroba, however you say it, my bad. She is a dog, and this went exactly how we expected it to go. Lemos is just not. She's not built for the higher ranks because she can't do anything when the takedowns come.
Man, talk about nothing doing on the ground. I mean, she was able to reverse a couple of times. Like the scrambles were there, but Virna was just showing that even in those scrambles, like there's nothing you can do. I mean, like she didn't have anything for her. The one time that I guess there was something to note in the scrambles, in those exchanges on the ground was that. Where they both had that potential leg lock situation going on, that was decent. But again, Virna ended up getting the better of that even. I mean, she went from going for the knee bar, couldn't secure that, went in, tried to get the heel hook, almost had that for a second. Luckily for Lemos, she was able to get out of that one. But yeah, I mean, any time that Lemos had any sort of competitive edge when it came to anything related to the ground game, Jandiroba was just right back to it. I mean, there was just nothing doing. And yeah, as you said, Jandiroba is just a dog with the way that she puts her work in on with the clinch situations and on the ground.
Yeah, and so just like Miranda Maverick, she sets up her wrestling with her striking. She's effective at making you think long enough, like, oh, she's going to stand with me. And just when Lemos is getting comfortable, she's shooting in for the takedowns. And I look at the numbers now. She went 1 for 5 on her takedowns. I'll give Lemos a little more credit. But the fact is once we saw that one takedown, you knew that this was going to be a long, well, if it was a long fight, this is what was going to be more the majority of it. And the last point I'll make is when Virna was in the closing sequence, she showed a great example of what BJJ is. It's like always looking for the next position. And just when you think you're out of it, just when you think, oh, I got out the rear naked, there goes the fucking arm bar. Like, and then you get really fucked up. Like, it was such a good transition. Like, it was one that as a viewer that I'm I know what to look for majority of the time, I was still like, wow, that was like a crazy thing to pull out. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the transition was so nice. She had the rear naked for a second there, wasn't ending up getting what she wanted out of it. The transition was quick, it was crisp, and it was locked in solid when she had it. I mean, she got it, and the way she was cranking that arm as quickly as she ended up getting it, it's. I mean, you must tap, brother. I mean, like
yeah.
there was no two ways about it. What up, John Thong? How you doing, brother?
Yeah, and 5 strikes for Lemos, that's harsh. In the 2 rounds that the fight was technically, that sounds kinda harsh because I at a moment, just when I thought she was maybe gonna start doing some action, Virna put the gas on it. She knew what she had to do. "I'm gonna take you down. I'm gonna get 4 sub attempts in the 6 minutes of control time that I have in the fucking 1 rou." Like, that's actually crazy to think about. So, 4.5 minutes. Okay. Yeah, okay, never mind. Okay, I'm reading this wrong. Yeah, so we had a whole second round. Yeah. This was right at the end, almost towards the bell kind of deal.
Yeah, yeah, but I
Not
mean,
almost bell, but
Yeah, yeah, close.
yeah.
I mean, but yeah, no. Lemos was doing somewhat of the right thing, like when she adjusted in the second after some of those crazier scrambles, because she knew, it was very obvious that Virna was just going to be going in for takedowns and trying to get her to the ground. That the game plan was as telegraphed as it could be. So she was trying to give her some stuff to think about. She was kind of faking uppercuts a little bit. She had hit her. She clipped her with one when she tried to jump in on her a little bit. Got one decent one. Give her something to think about, but not necessarily enough to swing the tides. And honestly, if you knew that the game plan was that telegraphed, because it was, I mean, there was no more of a down the line exactly as predicted performance as this was. If you knew that that was what it was going to be, you really needed to get your striking going heavier earlier. I mean, like, I'm not necessarily trying to say that every fighter needs to come out of the gate swinging for the fences. They don't all need to be Hyder Emil over here. But I mean, when you know that this is what is coming your way, I mean, like, I would think that you got to go in there and put more pressure on her a little bit earlier. I mean, you try to keep it at range, but as soon as that gets closed up and the arms get locked in, she's just taking down. She really has like a forceful takedown for a smaller girl.
Yeah. And so to my next thing is we saw a matchup with Whaley and Lemos. And Lemos had 2 official strikes on the board. And that one wasn't harsh in my opinion. She definitely only landed 2. Now we have a fight here where she landed 5 strikes. And it just makes you wonder, like, are you going to do anything? Like, are you gonna like get the
Yeah.
hands moving? Like, you only threw 12 in this one. You could have thrown 20. You might have landed 8. Like, you could have done a little more. And to the also the point is Virna was able to finish Lemos. Wei Li only could get her in the sub attempt. She wasn't able to close it out. I
It's
don't know
true.
how that correlates because I think it's going to be a good matchup either way. But Virna's a dog, man. I'm not saying Wei Li isn't, and she doesn't go for the finish, but Virna is able to get the finish. So
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, it would be very interesting because that's the matchup that's being floated now. I mean, people are saying, she's what I think Lemos was ranked third, so Wiener's taken over the third place spot. I mean, it's I'd say that's not necessarily a bad fight to make, right? I mean, after a performance like that, getting a solid win, getting a finish. I mean, crazier things can happen, but have happened. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Like you said, I I don't know. I mean, what do you think? What do you think would be that kind of the deal there?
my initial reaction is that it's interesting to think. Like, I know I've seen Whaley fight Lemos and I've seen Lemos fight Virna, but like the size difference I feel because Whaley's just so small. Like, she's a pocket rocket. Virna is not a small woman. Like, I feel like the size difference might be glaring. And I don't think, Whaley's gonna, cower or, have any issues with that. But the wrestling is gonna be more easy for Virna in that case.
I would think that Whaley would also put up a little bit of a better striking game in the sense that she's not as worried about the takedowns. I mean, the takedowns are still going to be a problem for her. I mean, but she's so nice herself with the wrestling that I would think she's probably be a little bit more confident to close the distance a little bit more because if she has to switch quickly from offense to defense, that's an adjustment that she can make pretty effectively, I think.
Yeah, I think Virna, just looking forward, if that's the matchup, if Virna shoots and she ends up getting close into the clinch, Whaley's gonna eat her up with the knees and the elbows like all day. I don't think I've seen Virna, have that defense needed. And Whaley's clinch is just so good, and then she can probably get into some top control positions if they're gonna scramble at all. And Whaley, she's got the output that Lemos just won't show Virna. And I think it's going to be interesting. I'm obviously going to back Whaley, but it's kind of worrisome.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a good fight, though. I mean, after a performance like that, I think it's deserved. The rest of that division. I mean, there's there's a lot going on there. But I mean, if second place is Yan Jianan, who just lost her shot. Tatiana Suarez, I think, is still injured. That is so ridiculous, man. I mean, I think what I said at the time on the watch along is that Virna versus Suarez for the title eliminator would be a banger, but Tatiana just needs to get herself healthy. It's like it's such a terrible, unfortunate what if situation with Suarez at this point because, obviously she was battling a very serious illness for a while that kept her sidelined for a good amount of her early career and now injured again. I mean, it's like, we've seen her fight like once in 3 years, it feels like. I mean, might have been more than that, but that's how it feels. And that's not great for this kind of a sport. I mean, you need to be in the conversation actively. I would like to see that fight, but if Jandiroba ends up skipping the line, I don't know if I can necessarily be mad at it for that reason alone.
If she skips the line, I mean, I wouldn't be mad at Tatiana versus Yao for the next title shot or whatever. Give Yao or Yan, not Yao, Yan the rematch if she can fight her way back up there. One fight out. I mean, Tatiana's a pretty big task. If she can do that, I'm pretty big on Yan. I know that doesn't necessarily make sense, two fighting one, but if Virna skips the line and becomes champ or something, I mean, why not?
Put it on the same card. Always love when they do that kind of shit. You
Yeah, right.
got the belt being defended, and then title eliminator right there down the line, a little bit. A couple fights down. That's a good look. Yeah, I kind of like it, and I mean, you could say that Jandiroba is, I mean, I guess some people might say that she's not ready for that kind of a challenge. She's 20-3, bro. I mean, that's look, man. I mean, like, what more do you want? She's doing exactly what she needs to do, dogging it out, and like Lemos didn't necessarily put it up as much of a fight as someone like Suarez might have because Suarez's wrestling is so crispy. But I mean, how can you deny it?
Right.
I don't know. I think that she's making it a statement. She's making it undeniable at this point. Let her get it.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. So overall, I mean, I would say, like I said earlier when we started, man, this card was one that delivered. We were all memeing on it. I was memeing on it, saying how this wasn't necessarily the greatest card in the world. These are the cards that can sometimes be the ones that really impress you, that really surprise you. And then sometimes we have, huge name fights that turn out to be absolute shit. So, it's always crazy and always unpredictable with MMA. You never know exactly what you're going to get. This fight, or this card rather, I believe delivered for us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right on. So that is Lemos versus Jandiroba. We got a big event coming up next. That would be this one right here, UFC 304, Edwards versus Muhammad 2. What are you thinking about this card, my dude?
I want to make the first point that Muhammad Mokaev and Manel Cap are now on the early prelims. They're the fourth fight of the night, which is kind of crazy that they were on the main card originally. Replaced they basically just did a flop with Christian Leroy Duncan, which I find is insanity.
I'm sorry, which fight were we talking about?
Muhammad and Manel.
Oh, yeah, they got bumped.
They basically swapped with Christian Leroy Duncan and Gregory Rodriguez. So COD's on the main card now.
Yeah, that is a little crazy.
But I wanted to make a point before
Mm-hmm.
anything else. The first fight of the night, Alice Ardeline, she's
Let me go.
Romanian.
Okay. And
And I know somebody who's Romanian. I went to high school with a Romanian girl, and I got a Romanian flag. Where's that bad boy at?
hey, flags of every nation parting over here. Let's go.
And so, if she's a huge underdog because she's 9-5, I might have to throw some money on her, man. Hey, what? Hold on, she gets finishes. Wait a minute.
We're
She's
talking
kind of
about on the prelims.
go to the early prelims.
Yeah, who are we talking about here?
You gotta go to. I guess you gotta go to ESPN. Maybe Ravina Oliveira pulled out because
Oh, okay.
ESPN has Alice Ardeline as the first fight of the night.
Got you. Okay.
Go to ESPN Fight Center.
Let's see where. Maybe doing this all on the fly here. Sorry.
No, you're good. You want me to send you the link?
Yeah, I guess so. Go. Yeah, sure. Go with it and throw it in there. Got you. Perfect. All right.
So yeah, this
back
should
on track.
Be updated.
So this is we're thinking this is the most accurate.
I want to say because I don't know who this Alice Ardeline is, and Google's normally way off.
Fair. All right. Then yeah, okay. Well, then shout out Romania, just for personal connection there with Mr. Parton.
Hey, they go through a lot, man. There's some warriors out there. If Alice is anything like Andrea, man, I'll give y'all some props.
Fair enough. I mean, Bannon is not bad herself, though. You know, she I believe is coming off of a victory there, or actually, no, wait, did she lose her debut? Because I think her last fight was her debut, and she might have lost her last fight.
Yep. Unanimous decision.
All right. So there you go. Versus Bruna Brazil, though. That's not a bad loss. Say what?
Has she had plastic surgery? Do we know the Shauna Bannon?
She looks like she's got some lip filler going on. She definitely has that. Like, I mean, to me, I always associate that more with like the English. I think they call them chavs. But that's like you know, kind of I guess a certain type of person over there.
Okay.
That's kind of the look that she has, but she is Irish. She is not English, and you know they get pretty particular about that. Don't
we already got checked about that.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, I mean, you know, she I guess unanimous decision loss, not great, but fighting Ardeline, who I'm not familiar with that name. I mean, does she have okay, I mean. Ultimate Fighting Tournament.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that is.
But you know, I mean, a whole bunch of nice wins, and yeah, a couple finishes.
She's been bouncing around every fight. Like, why don't they want to keep her?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, she got knockout power. That's always something to look out for, and you know, in women's MMA. So, all right, fair enough. All right, other ones on this card, yeah.
Yeah, next I'll say Mick Parkin.
Yes,
he's a huge favorite. Definitely put money on the Polish Power
Bresky, yeah.
Knockout. You got to. Plus 235. The knockout's gonna be super good money. Oh, wait a minute. Never mind who this dude is. Hold on. This dude is the dude who got knocked out by Waldo Cortez Acosta, and then he beat what's his name? Walter Walker, Johnny Walker's brother.
Yeah, that's not necessarily a resume that screams confidence, but I mean, you know, Parkin's a big fan. I mean, put a straight on him. You know, I mean, you know, you might want to throw Parkin in the parlay, but throw straight on Bresky. I mean, you know, they're fighting heavyweight, man, and that's anything can happen.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the point that I'm thinking. Like, especially 9-0. You know, all the pressure's on you. You're gonna be a heavy favorite, and you're not that. So it's possible.
It's true. Yeah. This might be there's potential for Parkin to have his O taken away in that fight.
Yeah.
All right. Next one that it looks like something worth talking about. I don't necessarily want to talk about the Patterson fight. Really not too much to talk about there. Although he is a huge favorite in that fight. I guess we'll see. They got a lot of Irish fighters on this card too, fighting in Manchester. I'm sure there's going to
I
be
was
some.
gonna say too, like after I looked at the Kiefer Crosby, I'm like, dang, this is like the fourth Irish dude or some shit on here.
Yeah,
They
might be a
don't
little
want to
bit of a.
claim him, but
I think it's sparking up more of the deep seated rivalry perhaps, but hey, that's fine. But yeah, so Mokaev versus Kopp. This is definitely the fight that a lot of people are looking out for. I can't believe that it's on the prelims. I mean,
now
that's
that you
kind of
say
crazy.
it, now that you say it that way, this is the fight that people want to see. I mean, maybe that's why it's early, is to get seats filled really, really early. But
Yeah, fair. I mean, all those goddamn English fans getting screwed to shit with this card as far as the time goes. At least they'll be awake for that fight.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, Mokaev versus Kopp. Lot of what ifs in this one. I mean, like Mokaev, great with the wrestling. Kopp, really, really solid with the takedown defense. So that's a that it's going to be an interesting one. I mean, Kopp is so fast with his striking, man. I mean, that dude moves so goddamn quickly. You want to talk about flyweight speed, and Kopp has it in spades.
yeah, I'm excited to see this one because I always love the blood matchups. Settle the differences inside the cage. Whoever's the better man, get it done. If Manel is gonna, get a knockout or a TKO, I'm ready to see it. If Muhammad's gonna, do his pistol squat and crotch hold thing, I mean, it is what it is. Like,
Fair. I think that every Manil Kopp fight seems to be a bad blood fight because that dude just seems like he's a little unhinged. I
yeah,
mean, he's a bit of a problem. There was that story going around that I think it was Gene Silva told. We couldn't really nail down exactly what the timeline for that story was, but they were saying that Kopp ran into Mokaev at the PI and got into an altercation with him there and ended up splitting his head. I mean, at least from the way that Silva told the story, that he opened him up at the PI. I don't know how valid that is or not, but still crazy to think that might have happened. Even if it was sometime in the way past. I mean, any which way you cut it, if Kopp is going around, smacking people around outside the cage, not a great look. But it does show that he's a little bit of a screw loose kind of guy. He's a kind of a psychopath. So
but
his fight style also shows that.
yeah, I was gonna say you can't predict him. Unpredictable kind of dudes. He might come
Yeah,
out smoke him. You never really know. And at the
and yeah.
underdog, it's kind of crazy. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not a huge underdog, but an underdog nonetheless. Mokaev, the one thing to note about him, not only very good with his wrestling, excuse me, but also very a durable guy as well. I mean, you saw that knee bar that he was
Yeah.
in. I mean, the amount of ligaments that must have been popping from that. You look at that picture that's going around online of that, that went out after the fight, and how far sunk that was. The fact that he did not tap, that is a tough motherfucker right there, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that he didn't have permanent damage from that, but yeah. So anyway, that's definitely a great fight. That's one to keep an eye on for sure.
The
Um,
the Welsh gangster.
Yeah, Oben Elliott. That's the dude that was on the Contender series, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I was not
Yeah.
I did not he was talking a huge game and did not live up to it on the Contender series. Did
Brother,
he
he
end up?
beat Woodburn, so
Yeah, that hurts. No, but I mean, Val Woodburn. I guess that's it makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit on the fence about that. He is fighting Preston Parkins. Yeah, Parsons rather. A little bit of a checkered last five. He's got the candy cane going. Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens for him, but yeah, that could be a decent win for the Welshman if he can pull it off and actually live up to all that shit he was talking. Because haven't necessarily seen that just yet.
right.
Um,
Next, Colton.
yeah. We got Bukowskis versus Praknio. That's a good fight in the making right there.
Oh, word? I don't think I
Oh
know.
yeah. Modestus Bukowskis. Yeah, decent with his wrestling. Pretty well rounded, I would say.
Another Polish
Um,
power one underdog, man. That's interesting.
yeah, for sure. I mean, Bukowskis, yeah, coming off of that loss to Petrino. But earlier than that, it was on quite a nice little streak for himself. So four out of his last five, and yeah, Praknio. I like this because I think it's kind of a somewhat even matchup. I mean, their stats are pretty similar, and I mean, a little bit more
Both
checkered
lost to
for
Petrino.
Praknio, huh?
Vitor. Both lost to Vitor Petrino.
True. Yeah. I mean, it seems like they do that sometimes, where it's like, if one guy loses to one and the other guy loses to him, well, let's see, let's have them go up against each other. Not uncommon, but yeah. So I do think that this is a pretty even matchup. They have Bukowskis as a pretty decent favorite, though. I mean, a -160. That's not bad. Yeah. I guess we'll just have to see what ends up happening here. I like that fight though.
Yeah, for sure. Might be a good one.
Now this one though, Hadley versus Lochran here. Lochran was a fucking dog in his last fight, man. That dude, talk about a guy that'll go in there and just fucking walk you down and strike. That guy is he's a tough motherfucker.
Yeah, he beat the shit out of Angel Pacheco. I was really hoping Angel would pull off that underdog, but this one right here, I actually do think it should be a heavier favorite because we were struggling to find him an opponent for a little bit. And then now Jake Hadley steps in and he's on a 2-fight losing streak, one to Charles Johnson and one to Cody Durden, both by decision. Lochran, I think he can finish it, really.
I mean, with the way that he strikes, I would say that that's pretty accurate. I mean, throwing heavy for bantamweight too. I mean, this dude is he's a kind of like you say, a pocket rocket kind of guy. I mean, he's a smaller dude. But he goes in there and fucking rocks, man, and also decent with his wrestling too, if I recall. I mean, he at least enough to stay with it and not get himself into something that he can't get out of.
If you're not believing in Lochran by knockout, just to give everybody the other side of it, Jake Hadley might pull off a miraculous submission. He does have a good sub average. So if Lochran slips up and he shoots in and he's trying to finish early and he gets caught in something, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not if it's not a good moment for him that he's like practiced a lot, like, oh, I'm getting like choked out, like I need to quickly get out or the fight's over kind of deal.
Fair, yeah. I mean, I think that this has the potential to be a pretty competitive fight one way or the other. And if Hadley has a decent submission game, he should probably try to get that off the ground pretty quickly because Lochran, this dude is one of those guys that really will just drop his hands, walk face first into you, and then just start swinging away.
Yeah.
So yeah, good shit there. I like that fight. Molly McCann versus Bruno Brazil. I mean, Molly McCann is a -370.
Yeah,
is this accurate?
Yeah, it's the exact thing I was gonna say. There's no way I'm putting money on Molly McCann at a -370. She's gonna fuck around and lose. And listen, this means nothing, but the girl she's facing, Bruno Brazil, her nickname is the Special One. If you don't think she's ready to upset you, Molly, I'm not losing money on that shit.
I mean, look, Molly had a really nice comeback in her last fight. She got that nice chicken wing situation going on. She, got the submission late into the round. I think she had like a couple seconds left on the clock and was able to pull out a nice finish. However, Molly McCann showed some of the lowest fight IQ on the planet in her last outing before that last fight. So, I mean, yeah, Molly is a little bit of a wild card when it comes to that kind of stuff. I believe I saw a breakdown of that submission that Molly suffered.
Mm-hmm.
She basically, she did the one thing, she had several options that she could have, undertaken to try to get herself out of it. She basically decided to go with the one sequence of movements that would sink her deeper into the submission.
Mm-mm.
That's something that I just can't overlook. it's just too risky, even with that crazy, with her being such a crazy favorite. Bruna Brazil, she has been patchy. I don't think that she inspires a great amount of confidence, but at the same time, she is training with the Fighting Nerds. I mean, maybe she's showing some improvement there. Could be, and I'd say throwing a straight on her with that kind of odds. I mean, I wouldn't see that as a bad look. I think a straight might be the way to go there.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Nathaniel Wood versus Daniel Pineda, right? Yeah.
This one might be very accurate. I don't know too much about Daniel. He lost to Alex Kersakis, but if Nathaniel Wood comes out and smokes him, I wouldn't be surprised that this is kind of some favorable matchmaking towards the UK crowd kind of deal. Molly, it may appear that way, but I think it's more unpredictable. This might just be a lock for real.
Yeah, it's true. And Nathaniel Wood has been showing some pretty, pretty accurate striking in his fights. I mean, he's definitely a dude who, is I'd suspect at least improving fight over fight. Trying to think of the last time I saw him fight. Let's see, what was his? I mean, yeah, he lost to Naimov. I mean, that's not a terrible loss, but it's still a loss nonetheless. Yeah.
And geez, a while ago.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing too. I mean, I think he was injured. I think that might have been what happened. But yeah, I gotta believe that he's better than this record. And that I think that you're probably right about the odds there. That this might be favorable for him, as Pineda 28-15. I mean, he's obviously got a lot of fights under his belt and a decent amount of losses racked up. I would still ride with Nathaniel Wood on this. I think that these losses are maybe not telling the exact story of Nathaniel Wood, and also, I mean, the wins that he does have in those in that little 3 streak that he was on there. Not Julia Rosa, Jourdain, and Feely, all decent wins. I mean, getting a win over Andre Feely might have been a little bit more impressive a while back, but this was a little bit of a while back. So,
I'm going to say right now, if you want to make something, you need to put Nathaniel Wood by decision with Mick Parkin probably by decision. I think those are probably safe because they're not finishers. They're not going to finish. Like, if you look at Nathaniel Wood's record, it's just full of decisions. Like,
decision merchant. Shit. Yeah. So fair enough. Hopefully he's taking some time to sharpen the blade a little bit. That would be nice to see him get a substantial win here, especially being that heavy of a favorite. I mean, like, I couldn't imagine too many people throwing money on that. But yeah, again, this might be another one. Throw a straight on the dog. I mean, for plus 325, buck might not hurt.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to the main card here. Arnold Allen versus Giga Chikadze. I know a lot of people are very excited about Arnold Allen coming back. What do you think?
I think Arnold's going to put on a really good show. There's no bad fights that he has. Like, he's always exciting, and there's always the element that he's going to be able to pull something off. Giga, you've been out for a while. I don't believe it, dude. I got Arnold.
Yeah, Giga did have a nice win in his last fight. He's disappointed me in the past. I was really high on the Giga train. I was riding the hype train on him. The Giga kick was kind of one of those mythical things that was floating around for a little bit. I bought into it. He's let me down. And I mean, Arnold Allen, I mean, for as technically proficient as he is, he's also kind of let me down in some ways. I mean, not necessarily let me down in the sense that he wasn't doing what he should have been doing, but again, levels to this game, he has lost where it counted. I think this is a much more favorable matchup for him for sure. I don't know. I'm a little on the fence. I mean, he's a heavy favorite on this one as well. I want to believe that the technicality of Arnold Allen is going to outweigh the range striking of Chikadze. I'm just a little apprehensive with that kind of a differential on the odds.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's gonna be a good one though, I think.
For sure. And I mean, really, like, with a fight like this, Arnold Allen needs to win it. most definitely to try to maintain some semblance of being in the conversation, because I hate to say it, and I mean he's still early enough in his career that I don't think it necessarily needs to be this way, but Arnold Allen is smacking of gatekeeper to me.
Yeah,
I'm
but
just putting
hey,
it out there. Spicy take. I'm sorry, but
I think Arnold, he's just in a bad era right now. He's got too many good people in the decision or in the division
yeah,
above him, and
legit.
the people that are coming up, they might overlap him, and it's gonna suck to see. But Arnold's fun to watch, so I think enjoy while you can.
Fair, yeah, and and if he puts on a really nice performance, it could be something that'll raise his stock a little bit. He could use that. I mean, he's that loss was his last fight, right? Against Vloev, yeah. Two losses in a row now. Yeah, I mean, again, you're talking about Evloev and Holloway. That's about as that those are two very good losses, one better than the other, of course. But still, yeah. I mean, I'd like to see him win, and I'd like to see him win in a definitive way, because he's starting to backslide a little bit, and he seems like a nice enough guy. I don't want to see him get put into that gatekeeper camp if he can avoid it.
Yeah, the point I will make is that the difference between the two people you named, Max and Mozart, is that one is undefeated, and that's fine. So Arnold is gonna get a finish, sub or knockout. Now that I've seen that he has actually subbed people, he's gonna do this. He's gonna get this done against Giga, and who knows, Giga, he ain't nothing, bro.
Well, all right. I mean, I don't know if I'll go that far necessarily. What I think that Arnold Allen needs to do is close the distance on him. I mean, that's really going to be your meal ticket there, is getting in tight on him. Don't let him get those kicks off. If you can neutralize that, you got a pretty decent shot.
I don't think Giga's going to try to stand with Arnold. I think Arnold has the ability to close quick, and kind of like earlier on the card with Hyder Emil, like he can just dart in and just start unleashing bombs. Like with Max, when the sight that you have of him and Max trading is like, it just tells me everything I need to know about Arnold. Like he's willing to lay it out there. He's willing to go out there and just lay a flurry. So I'll believe that's what Giga's going to be afraid of, and it might be a wrestling match.
Fair. I mean, 50% takedown accuracy for Arnold Allen. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
Yeah. All right, cool. So moving on to Christian Leroy Duncan moved
This
up
fight
to
here.
Main card versus Gregory Rodriguez. Talk about a fight that you'd really like to see both guys win. But I mean, this has banger potential written all over it, man.
Yeah, I hate to say that I think it'll be a decision, but that's just because I don't think Gregory's gonna get finished, and I think Christian is gonna just put on a masterclass before he always does. He shows out. He shows that there's levels to his game right now. To the competition that he's facing, Christian is above it. And if he does that to Gregory, if he makes him look like a punching bag, like man, it's gonna be a good time. Shout out to Gregory. Shout out to RoboCop. But Christian he's him.
Well, and you say make him look like a punching bag. If he's gonna make him look like a punching bag, that's one tough motherfucking punching bag. Because I mean, Gregory Rodriguez, I will never forget. I think it's ingrained in my memory. The image of his, the entire center, what they call that, the T zone or whatever.
Yeah,
that just all being exploded on his face and still getting the win on top of that. I mean, this guy is tough as they fucking come. RoboCop indeed. This has a lot of potential to be a really good fight. If it goes to decision, I'd like to see somebody swing it so that it doesn't. But these are two tough guys. Duncan by decision probably does make sense. If not, I mean, I throw a buck on each of them to get a knockout. Just to have it out there.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. So I think this is a fight that a lot of people are talking about. Paddy Pimblett versus King Green. King Bobby. What do you think is going to happen in this fight?
I want to make the point first.
Yeah.
Paddy has never in his UFC career, he has not strayed away from, the people who have a problem with him. Bobby, for that example. Tony, obviously, when the fight was made, he started talking a little more. But like, Paddy is I respect that he's willing to go in there and fight for, you know, his manhood or whatever you want to say. Like, he's not going to let he's not going to let King Green come out here and punk him, which at first I'm leaning towards Bobby. He has had a really good string of performances aside from Jalen, and the minus 125 might be okay. But Patty might surprise, guys. I might be leaning towards Patty now. I don't know. Like, I do think that level 2, his mindset is different. Obviously, Bobby Green has always been that way, but he is the older fighter. This is the vet, the prospect. Patty might be on his way. Maybe we'll see one of his flying triangles. Maybe he'll get a sub. I don't know. Patty might surprise.
I mean, I would think that Patty's going to have to make this wrestle heavy. I mean, there's no way he wants to stand with Bobby Green. I mean, Bobby Green, you know, the power in King's hands. I mean, that it's formidable to say the least, and I don't think Patty wants any part of that. He had, you know, they were talking, they were jawing at each other, saying that, King Green here was saying that he was comfortable with making it a wrestling match. Patty was welcoming that on. I just don't want this I don't want this to be Patty neutralizing King Green this entire fight and you know, just turning into another Tony Ferguson performance. I mean, I just hope that this is entertaining because Patty has not shown that charisma star quality as far as in the cage goes. I mean, you know, obviously he's a bit of a character outside of the cage. He's a little bit of a big talker. I think he's kind of humbling himself a little bit now. I think that the whole Jared Gordon situation kind of opened his eyes to how people are perceiving him. He's adjusting a little bit. So good on him for that, actually, because you know, sometimes there are people, you know, not to name names, but people like Ian Gary, who, you know, they stick to the bit, you know, they commit to the bit 100%. I think Patty is adjusting nicely when it comes to the public perception a little bit. He's trying at least, you know, I don't know how effective it is with the fans just yet. But all of that aside, I mean, that's all outside of the cage bullshit. When it comes to inside the cage, though, as I was saying, he hasn't shown, you know, this tremendous acumen to the point of like, wow, that's champion potential yet. Yeah. You know, I mean, this could be his coming out party. A win over Bobby Green that's a huge step up considering what Bobby Green has done recently. Yeah, I mean, and also being a huge fan favorite. There's a lot of eyes on this fight. They showed a whole hype package for this fight during the last card that we were just breaking down. So,
Right.
you know, I mean, there's a lot of attention on this one. Could be a good night for Patty. I don't think that he's going to want to stand with him. I mean, it would be very, very surprising if he does. I kind of worry that Patty's the kind of guy that might be like, well, oh, they don't think I'm going to want to stand with him. Let me show them all, and then we'll see what happens there. You know?
Yeah. Right. No, it's going to be interesting, but this card, man, this is one of the fights that we just can't. I just gotta see it.
Yeah, exactly. It's. I think it remains to be seen, and we will see next weekend. Moving on to the co-main event here, it breaks my heart to see that little belt icon next to this fight, considering everything that's going on at the top of the division. But Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blades. What you thinking?
I think Curtis Blades being a plus 290 dog is very. It's maybe ignorant, like just the fact that you're basically not even giving him a chance. And I don't know. I think he's also one of these dudes that just might surprise. It's the heavyweights. Literally anything can happen. So I don't know why you would waste your money trying to win a little on Tom Aspinall when you could use a little and try to win a lot on Curtis. Like,
yeah, I mean, this kind of is one of those cards. It seems. I mean, UK card with a lot of UK fighters. They're stacking it a little bit UK side. I mean, this fight is kind of a little outside of that realm. I mean, I'm talking more in a general sense. But you know, with this fight, I mean, I think that everybody on the planet is just counting Curtis Blades out off the bat, and it just seems a little strange to me. I mean, granted, he has had his foibles. I mean, you know, there have been a couple of times where he's gotten caught. He can be knocked out. one thing that actually I do want to mention, that is a crazy thing here, considering how decent Blades is with his wrestling, does not have a submission win in the UFC.
Yep. I just looked at that as well while you were talking. But I mean, I don't think it's possible for him to do it. Maybe Tom Aspinall he's more likely to get the sub on Curtis, but Curtis is a very formidable wrestler that he's probably not going to get subbed. Grappling wrestler, whatever you want to say. His grappling defense is probably solid as well. We just
Yeah,
see him on the bottom, I guess.
right. Yeah, I mean, I think the issue here that I'm seeing with it is that Blades. The criticism that I've had of Curtis Blades in the past is that there are times where he does not get his wrestling off quick enough. Sergey Pavlovich fight is a prime example of that. He's standing there heavy, kind of feeling it out. Sergey Pavlovich is just like, okay, well, if you're not going to do anything, I am, and ends up getting an early finish.
Yeah.
So that's the criticism in the past. I would say, hey, get your wrestling off quicker. However, you're fighting Tom Aspinall, who is just such a fantastic wrestler. I mean, his BJJ is for a heavyweight. I mean, that's the biggest reason that I want to see the John Jones fight, not necessarily just because it's John Jones and because the belt is on the line and all of the other aspects that make the top of the heavyweight division such a shit show right now, but really, it's because I think that Tom Aspinall is the best wrestling challenge that Jones is going to face at heavyweight. So I want to see if he has the ability to actually overcome that.
Yeah, and we don't know, man. By the time it comes around, Curtis Blades might be that one trying to unify that belt.
Could be, man. Anything can happen. I mean, does Curtis have knockout wins? Is he just straight up decisions all over the place?
Just knocked out. Yeah.
I mean, counting Tom Aspinall as a knockout, give me a break. But you know what I
mean.
Well,
knocked out Jailton.
Yeah. Oh, good point. I didn't. Another one. Does he have knockouts from distance?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I was just making the video on him. I think he knocked out
Chris Dawkins.
Junior Dos Santos, but that was way long ago. Alistair Overeem, that was elbows though. Yeah, he knocked out Junior. Yeah,
I don't remember the Dawkins finish, but it was early in that second round. So I mean,
not too many, and the ones that are, it's kind of like doctor stoppage and like kind of deal.
Yeah, I mean, the odds are saying it's a layup for Tom Aspinall. The fans are saying it's a layup for Tom Aspinall. I'm throwing a straight on Curtis to have that, just to have that bet going, because I do think that there is potential for, him to pull out a crazy upset, but it would be kind of a crazy upset.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, it's Tom Aspinall's time. Let's all be, hey, yo, much appreciated. Thank you very much for following. It's Tom Aspinall's time. I mean, he's in. I mean, like so prime. He's at the top of the division where he rightly belongs. I think that he's a big problem for anybody who'd be stepping up against him. I mean, the whole. I don't want to go, rehash it 8 million times, but the fact that Jones is tying up heavyweight right now is unfortunate for Tom Aspinall. Hopefully the Stipe fight gets figured out. If it's going to happen, who knows? With John Jones and his legal issues now, I don't think that it should affect that. Get that out of the fucking way already. Let him retire. Let him whatever the fuck he wants to do. Get him out of the equation already. I think the sport will be better off for that for a lot of reasons. I think heavyweight will be better off for that if Tom Aspinall can go out there and prove that he is the undisputed champion. I mean, fucking A, this defending an interim belt.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. All right, so that's that. And finally, Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad. I think that with this one, if we're talking about Curtis Blades pulling an upset, I think that and Curtis Blades being a guy that everybody's counting out, I think that everybody on the planet is counting out Bilal Muhammad, and I think that is insanely misplaced.
Yeah, it's something that is probably possible, but in my opinion, this fight, it's just gonna drag. I don't think it's gonna be anything like we talk Leon up so much, and I just don't see it. I'm just not seeing that he's going to put on an exciting performance. I don't care what he did the first fight. He's going to try to keep his belt. He's not going to be stupid and go rush out there and try to, slug with Bilal or whatever. I think he's going to do his game plan, leg kicks on the outside, pity patter, point win, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that really, when it comes to Leon is the takedown defense is so good. So good. That being said, though, I think that this is a very unpopular opinion, but I think that Bilal, I think that he has more upper body power. I think that with if he can get him up against the cage and sweep the leg, I think that there is potential for him to overcome the takedown defense. I think that Bilal might be the guy that can get Edwards down. Now, if he does get him down, what does he do with that? That remains to be seen as well, because Edwards is really nice with his wrestling when he wants to use it. But I mean, if they're I mean, and uses it effectively, I think that it's just, this is such a what if kind of situation, because I think that there's a lot going for both of them, and I think it's a lot, the odds being minus 245 plus 200. I just don't see that at all, man. I think that this is a lot closer of a fight than those odds are making out.
I think it's also just a lot closer than what people want to believe. I mean,
Right.
yeah, Vegas, they can put those numbers out there right now, but I think towards fight day, after weigh-ins, I think it'll be maybe coin flip area.
That's certainly how I'm feeling about it. I mean, Bilal is fucking good, man. I know, you look, both of them are kind of boring guys, right? I mean, that's the consensus of the community. Edwards, aside from the crazy fifth round head kick, is pretty much a by the books kind of dude. Grapple heavy, like I said, point striking kind of deal. I mean, Bilal Muhammad is very wrestle heavy, but also has power in his hands. Knocked out Sean Brady. I don't think people give enough credit for that. Why? I mean, like, Sean Brady was fucking undefeated.
Yeah.
Dude was crushing motherfuckers for a minute there. I mean, I don't think that Bilal Muhammad is getting the respect he deserves because of how disliked he is outside of the cage. I'm not saying that is misplaced. I think Bilal is a bit of I think he talks a big game, and he is a little bit delusional. But that being said, look, is he a decision merchant? Perhaps in a lot of his fights, but I mean, I think he's a lot better than people are giving him credit for. I think that there's potential for him to get this victory.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think a lot of people are going to be very upset by that. And I'm not saying that I disagree necessarily. I don't, Bilal Muhammad being a fucking champion, that does not, not necessarily the ideal situation for the welterweight division. But that being said, if he does end up becoming the champion, welterweight heating the fuck up right now. I mean, we've got the rumored fight that's, or at least what they're jawing about online, is Ian Gary versus Shavkat for the Eliminator. I mean, you don't think so?
Nope. That's just what Ian Gary wants. That is not even gonna come close to fruition. Ian Gary, that's a dream, brother. But
I mean, either way.
Sorry, let me before I let you go. Yeah,
go ahead.
I think for Ian Gary, that is a great matchup to get you into title contention kind of spot. But is that something that people want to see? No, not necessarily, in my opinion. And two, I think Shavkat smokes him.
Same. I mean, and also I think that the fight to make still is Gary versus Covington. I mean, let that whole bullshit get all sorted out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that really sucks right now is Jack Della being injured.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, he comes back 100% and can slot himself right back in. But no matter what the situation is, I mean, if they're sitting on Shavkat for the title shot, I'm not necessarily mad at that, even though I just love to see Shavkat fight. So, it'd be nice to see him back in the cage. However, after this fight, between Usman and Bilal, I think that Shavkat... Jesus Christ. Yeah, you're sorry. Edwards and Bilal. After that fight, I mean, I would really like to see Shavkat get that shot. If they're not going to give that to him, then yeah, I think it's got to be Jack Della. How the fuck is Covington still fourth?
Yeah, that is pretty crazy, but it is what it is. Probably because they want to keep him high enough to make Ian Gary's leap a little bigger. But
yeah, jeez, that's kind of ridiculous if that's the case. But yeah, anyway, I would say after this fight, Jack Della Maddalena versus Shavkat for the eliminator. If that's the route that they want to go, if they want to shoot Shavkat straight to the title shot, I am okay with that.
Yeah, no doubt.
And and I also think that Shavkat versus either of those guys, Shavkat's next up, bro. I don't know why there are people that are doubting this guy. I've seen absolutely nothing to show me that there are any holes in the game that need shoring up. I use that phrase a lot. Fix the holes. Plug the leaks. I don't see any leaks.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm with you.
Yeah. So. All right, I guess we'll see what happens with Edwards and Bilal Muhammad. I just hope that it's exciting.
Should be a good card. It might be slow at the end. That's it.
Yeah, and God, I feel so bad for the UK crowd. Who? What time is this fight supposed to take place? The main event is that like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning?
Let's see. So 8 p.m. is when the prelims start. Early prelims start at 6 p.m. So 6 p.m. It's 10:43 for us. It's 3:43 for them. So minus 4 hours. So it starts at like a midnight kind of deal, I think.
Hey, Jesus Christ. It's going to be one sleepy arena out there in Manchester.
Yeah.
All right. Well, lucky for us Americans, we get the full show at normal time. I feel terrible for those fans out there, but hopefully they can keep themselves from getting too drunk to fall asleep by the time the main event comes up.
There you go.
All right. Well, that is 304 for you. A little bit of a breakdown there. And of course, we will be back the Monday after to talk about everything that goes down at UFC 304 right here on last week's fights. Anything else in the MMA world that you'd like to touch on?
No, I think I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to tip the hand too greatly on it, but there was a kind of crazy story that was just told recently in an interview that came out that's been going around on Twitter. I won't drop that here necessarily, but keep an eye out for a video coming up. Unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit later than I had anticipated. I forgot I have an engagement on Wednesday, so I'm going to hopefully get it out by normal Yama schedule, so it should be out by Friday at the latest. But there is a video coming on a very serious situation in MMA, so just a little bit of a teaser for that. All right, I guess that'll do it for tonight. YouTube.com/@YamaShow for all of my content here. We do watch-alongs for all of the UFC events on the Yama channel. My buddy Chase over here does his watch-alongs as well, and I know that you can tell them where they can find you, brother.
They can find me at youtube.com/@CPSmalls. And if you want to find me on Twitter and hang out, @CreativePartin, PARTIN.
Make sure you follow my boy and at Yama Show on all social media as well. These streams here on Mondays usually start at 9 o'clock. If not, they start a little bit later. I will always keep everybody updated as to the start times on the social media, so make sure that you're following on Twitter and on Instagram especially. That'll do it for this week, everybody. Make sure that you have a good one out there. Enjoy these upcoming fights. We'll be back to break them down. Take good care, and until next time, fight on.
Game.